People who are political allies think that the change of people has to be stopped because many of the replacers, the people who replaces, are grossly misbehaving. Not all of them, of course, but important proportions of them, and they make life very difficult, and they think that the problem is, say, Islamism or something else, and they're right. But I would just as strongly object by the replacement of the French or the idea Portuguese or the English, whom I also like very much, by exquisite Koreans who would behave absolutely perfectly, would not be, because, for instance, they say, oh yes, but the Asiatics are no problems.
They're contributing.
They are contributing and they never give any problem to anybody. But I don't want France to be populated by Chinese. Chinese are right in Chinese, but I think changing the population of the country is a terrible crime, even if the replacers are behaving perfectly, which usually are not. But the problem is not that way. It is a problem that they are misbehaving, but
not the main one.
The fundamental problem is not that. It's just for so many, not many, but a few political parties says we have to expel people who have been condemned many times, people who have no papers, and people who have been condemned recidivists many times. And fines, they certainly should be expelled and relegated. I do not contest that. But I mean, that is not the core of the problem. We have to decolonize because we are being colonized. And for that, it is the occupier in se which has to lose and to return to his own countries. Would certainly be a good thing if criminals were expelled, but I think that is not really the core of the matter. The core of the matter is that we are being colonized, and a colonization can end only in decolonization and remigration.
I would like to put together two of your ideas. Firstly, the idea of Hitler's second career. The idea that national identity or its defense is something associated with Hitler, so it's wrong. That's the connection some people make. And with that connection, politicians and other people allow and contribute to the colonization of Europe, as you call it. And I think it is the right word for it. So I would like to ask you, this colonization of Europe, and you use intense words like genocide by substitution and the colonization of Europe. You even state that Europe is being far more colonized than it even colonized any other country.
Yes.
So I would like to ask you, how have we been persuaded that the disappearance of our people is something good for the idea of a constant apology to minorities and ex-colonies, let's say, something like that. So the idea that we need to disappear for a constant apology. How did we allow that?
Well, you mentioned that small book of mine called The Second Career of Adolf Hitler, and I think that is part of the answer to your question. Europe has been subjected to such a horrible trauma, to such a point in horror, with the death camps, with the Gestapo, with the executions of people in France and clearly other part of the continent, that it has wanted to step out of history. I also wrote a small fairy tale for children called Europe, with her all, like the Danish letter, with her whole, about the desire to go out of history and not to take part in anything, not to be a power anymore. But it's like being polite. If you want to be polite, you can't be polite alone. You have to be polite in a society of polite people. If you are polite alone, you are dead. And the same thing for wanting to go out of history. If other continents and other countries do not want to go out of history and want to go on as powers, you are lost, which is more or less what happened to Europe. Of course, after the death camps, there was nothing more legitimate than anti-racism. Everybody was anti-racist, and I certainly was, but everybody was, because anti-racism at that point was protecting a few races who needed protection. And that was perfect. No one could make any objection to that. But anti-racism has totally changed meaning in the 70s, I think, more or less, in 75, for instance, with the proclamation of the dogma of the inexistence of races, but races did not exist. And now people are convicted that races do not exist, which is very strange because it can be proclaimed only if you take races in the most racist, then pseudo-scientific exception of the world, that was something biological. Maybe races do not exist in a biological, I don't know anything about biology. I don't think it's true, actually, but I would not venture to have an opinion on the subject. But races are much more, of course, than a biological phenomenon. Races are, it's a very important word in all the language of the earth, and certainly European language. In poetry, the word appears all the time. In Greek tragedy, in everything, it's a word which is very strong in its meaning for centuries, and it is something which has relation to time, to cultures, to civilization, to family. It has enormous amount of meaning, and it is absurd to reduce it to a purely biological meaning, which is not very interesting anyway.